Is it possible to have the perfect planning? And some might now think, well, you with your German accent, probably you should know. Well, do I? We will see in the next 10 to 15 minutes if I do and what we can contribute here. As we all know, planning is important. There's no question about that. With every single project you do, you always hear the same aspects which are important. You should be on time, on track, on target, but then, of course, the amazing twist, please be on, or even better, under the budget allotted. And that usually applies to not only staffing, also the amount of hours spent, but also, of course, to the financial aspects. Please stay within the financial budget. At the same time, the level of staffing goes down, and the complexity at the same time goes up. And it doesn't go up in a linear way, it goes up in a way steeper moment. And not only that, when you think complexity goes up, look at regulatory. Regulatory and compliance goes up even further, even quicker, and even more dynamic. And somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between all of that, someone is sitting trying to deal with that, and that's most likely you. So we have to talk about how can we provide, let's say, the most close to perfect planning possible, because as we see right now, it is not going well at the moment. The vast majority of projects are late, and they are late for different reasons. And even worse, many people, even when they see project plans within their organization, do not even believe in the project plan when it's first put on the table. And that, of course, is a straightforward nightmare. So what's the status quo? At the moment, we see that the staffing levels are going down, and at the same time, the demands are going up, so does regulatory and compliance. And if you think that this will change, hear the news, it won't. We have a shortage of workforce, shortage of talent. There is not a single sign on the horizon that things get better when it comes to staffing. You may, of course, now shout AI, artificial intelligence. Yes, it will support, it will help you. However, we are still quite a bit away that it will replace people on a high level of complexity. So at the same time, by the way, client demands become more complex as well. So when you're dealing with clients, internal or external clients, you have to face that as well. And then you look at the processes, the tools, or the knowledge you have. And suddenly we see, while everything evolves, for whatever reasons, these three aspects often do not. Processes, often designed 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you just kept going and said, they worked so far, and then you just moved on. Maybe not the best approach. Tools, I am still utterly shocked to see how some companies manage their projects. I see companies still working on Microsoft Excel and then wondering why data doesn't add up, numbers do not add up. Well, Microsoft Excel was never meant to be a major project management tool. And then looking at the knowledge where people say, oh, I have lots of experience, lots of knowledge there. And then you look at the last training they had in that area is 10, 15 years ago. And they always go with the line, oh, I'm in the industry for 20 years now. I don't need any training anymore. Well, if you go like that, good luck. Knowledge is developing way quicker than you think. You, of course, have to get the knowledge from the right places. So you have to book professionals. And yes, that's expensive, or it can be expensive, but it's a great investment because the return is way higher and way quicker than you always think. So what are the main issues we face now? The main issues often are that you have leaders who demand a lot, but at the same time, they lack management commitment. Management commitment is crucially important for any project where you put a flag next to it and say, this is an important project. When you do not show management commitment, when you are one of these leaders, or when you and your organization have one of these leaders where they say, here's the project, I just throw the grenade over the fence and then good luck from there. Well, that's not happening. When you have demands and you have complex projects, you often need support for that. And management commitment is the first point where you get this help. If you lack management commitment, you just now found the first reason why your projects might not go too well. And of course, this is not a one-sided game. On the other side, you have to see that sometimes the pressure leaders put forward is just pressure they got from other sides, maybe from the next higher level. If you don't talk to the CEO, there's always a next higher level. And the point now is that often communication lacks these details. When some mid-manager, some line manager shows up and says, oh, we have to be finished by 31st of August or by 28th of September, and people ask, why? Why 28th of September? And the manager just says, well, because that's what they told me. That is at least transparent, however, not transparent enough. When they say something like, oh, just do what I tell you, that's just bad leadership. You have to give reason. People have a right to get the reason why things need to be finished at a certain point in time. If you lack this transparency and if you do not plan to implement it, good luck. People do not like to work for organizations that are intransparent or non-transparent, because people will then assume that other aspects will also go against them, which probably is about payment, about working hours. You will be non-transparent there as well, and then they most likely prefer to work somewhere else. So how to get everything better? How to make everything better? What can you implement to make this better? So first, you get an update on your processes. Look at the processes one by one. Do not update them all at the same time, because that's not working as well. Update them one by one, always having in mind which processes are interconnected, and then you update them step by step. The same applies to the tools. I don't care if you use Asana or Jira or Microsoft Project, but when you use tools that are not meant to be a project management tool, don't be surprised about the outcome. Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, or OneNote are not project management tools. They can help in projects, but they are not meant to be project management tools. And the third aspect is the knowledge, and I speak from experience here. This last weekend, I handed in the last bid with a big presentation. I handed in the last bid for my executive MBA. And the executive MBA was something I did on the side whilst working full time and traveling more than 100 days a year. So first, it is possible. Of course, it always depends on your situation. It's way more challenging with family and children. However, when it comes to work, your knowledge needs to stay up to date. When your knowledge gets out of date, you lose contact with absolutely anyone in your company. People will laugh at you behind your back because they simply say your views are so outdated that it's actually pointless to talk to you. And I can tell that from a very challenging project I had to lead during the executive MBA. In an executive MBA, where you only get access when you had leadership experience, usually for 5 to 10 years, as I did so far, my project with 12 people, and I was the project architect there, was implementing an AI system into a law firm, and that law firm wanted to expand their business into sustainable debt recovery. So debt recovery either from counties or cities or even private people, without either only getting money in the short term and then the other side files for bankruptcy, or not getting any money and the other side is getting away with their debt. So finding a sustainable solution for both sides, and then finding out how can AI assist in this process. We had people living in Hawaii, living in the Seychelles, living in Australia, the Asian region, Germany, Switzerland, the UK, the US, of course, South America. So we had people from all over the world working in more than 12 different time zones. And that is, of course, very challenging. But having updated processes, choosing the right tools, and then getting the knowledge up to date as we all did there was the reason why we could finish the process highly successfully. We could finish the project highly successfully. The project at the end is rated by the client. It's a real world project, by the way, not anything artificial or a made up case study or anything. This will be implemented in reality. So you have a high level of accountability here, because otherwise clients will be very angry. And with a score of 99 points, if you're used to the UK grading system, it is quite uncommon. And believe me, we had quite some party for that during the weekend. A score of 99 points is not very common in the UK. So be sure that you update all the processes, all the tools, all the knowledge you have. When you are outdated, your business will be outdated. When it comes to demands, it is perfectly fine when you say you're ambitious. However, any one of your employees has the right, and you need to give them the right, to set assertive boundaries. Assertive setting of boundaries is needed because otherwise people will burn out, people will call in sick, or people will simply leave your organization. There is no need for aggressive setting of boundaries, saying, oh, don't even ask me, the answer is no anyway, don't even contact me, stay away from me. We don't need that. We also don't need no boundary setting because, let's face it, in any organization, you know the one who's always so helpful. They pick up any kind of work you put on their table, and that's how burnt out they are, and most likely due to that. Assertive setting of boundaries is any employee's, any team member's right, and we did the same in our team, so please ensure that you have the same in your team. It is a massive difference. We had a project lead, chaps, hi if you listen to this, amazing, and Jesus also as the project lead, me as a project architect. There's a massive difference between, let's say, a single mother doing an executive MBA in a country where the income is a third of where you live, or, for example, when you're a single man and you have no family, no children, you have way more time available. And by the way, that's me in this case. So you have to see that setting of boundaries is important for each and every person's individual situation. We made that happen, and so can you. You, of course, need, as I mentioned before, very clear management commitment. You never can say, okay, here's the project, you're going to manage that, grenade over the fence and goodbye. That never works. It will never work in the future for any relevant project. And adding on that, you need to have buffer time of at least 20% on every single process. And I'm not even arguing about that. This is scientific evidence for decades now. This is not even new. And by the way, I plan my project with 40% buffer time, which is why we were finished ahead of time. Buffer time means you have to assume certain things will go wrong, and I tell you they will. So, for example, sometimes people will call in sick because they're sick. Sometimes the client promised you to deliver, and they didn't deliver because they called in sick, or suddenly a supplier doesn't deliver, or suddenly you have force majeure, flights cancelled, or unforeseeable weather conditions and whatnot. And these are only 5 examples mentioned out of probably 500 or 5,000 you can mention. Things will go wrong. And if you now come up with, oh no, we don't do buffer time, we're agile. So first, 9 out of 10 leaders, when I ask them, what do you mean with agile, can't give me a proper answer. I'm professionally trained on agile methods. Most leaders are not. Agile is just a buzzword, nothing else than BS bingo in this case. So we need to see that the buffer time is available. It's possible to see it. And by the way, if you always say, but people will be just working slower when they see buffer time. Well, first, that's not my experience. Second, there's no scientific evidence that they do. And third, if they do, the problem is the leader. Oops. Yeah, that's not the answer you probably want to hear. But sustainable leadership moves people towards being more productive because they feel committed to the organization in which they work. 20% minimum buffer time. I highly recommend 40% or more, depending on which industry and under which circumstances you work. Putting all this together, summing it up, the higher demands that you have in your organization towards employees and teams have to start. They need to be initiated with higher demands towards better leadership and better qualified leaders who actually know what they're doing. When you start with the leaders, with the processes, with the tools, with the knowledge afterwards, then you will have amazing projects which actually are on time, and you probably can deliver as close as possible to the almost or maybe even 100% perfect planning. And I wish you all the best doing so. And of course, that's complex as we all see. If you now have questions here, feel free to contact me. By the way, thank you very much for the last week's amazing discussions we had. My email address you find in the show notes of this podcast, nb@nb-networks.com. You also find my LinkedIn in the show notes of the podcast as well. Feel free to contact me there or connect with me on there, and then we just have a chat and take it from there. The second aspect, which I always recommend, is we have live sessions. So if you like to chat with me live and in color, we have that usually once a month on average. When you go to expert.nb-networks.com and you put your email address in there, you will only receive 1 email a week every Wednesday morning. It's 100% content at free guarantee. You find everything I published, all free of charge. When you go through other channels, most likely you end up with a paywall. So via the leadership letter, you get all of that completely free of charge for our readers and listeners here. And of course, you have the access and the dates when you can directly jump onto the live sessions that we have here. And we will have the next one quite soon, actually. So pays off to sign off. The quicker, the better. But the third aspect is the most important one. Apply what you heard, because only when you apply what you heard, you will see the positive change and the positive developments that you obviously want to see, the positive results you want to see in your organization. If you need any kind of help, feel free to contact me. I'm available 24/7 and I answer any message within 24 hours or less. I look forward to hearing from you, and now I wish you all the best for your future and upcoming projects. At the end of this podcast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Thank you very much for your time.